We open in Paris's holopub, where Neelix and Tuvok engage in some of their trademark laugh-a-minute banter, but despite lasting over a minute, we still don't get one. Janeway interrupts and calls Neelix to the bridge. While there, a completely new crew member walks in front of the camera, which is pretty fucking ballsy given that the last person to do this was a named guy called Dust, who got proper fucked up in the last episode. Anyway, Janeway says an approaching vessel is asking for Neelix specifically. We discover they're a member of a race that fought a war with Neelix's people, and won, apparently, as they conquered his homeworld. He introduces himself as Dr. Jetrel, a name that apparently causes Neelix to leave the bridge whilst adopting the facial expressions of somebody passing a particularly troublesome shit. Neelix explains to Janeway that Jetrel created a weapon of mass destruction that bollocksed up his colony and killed a goodly 300,000 people. The only reason he wasn't killed is because he was off fighting with the defense forces. Later, Dr. Oppenheim, Dr. Jetrel, teleports over to Voyager. He's greeted by Janeway and Tuvok, who say that Neelix told him to go fuck himself with a photon torpedo. Despite this, he's here to tell Neelix that he probably has a blood disease due to the space nuke that bollocksed up his colony. Oh, and Jetrel wants to do some probing to try and cure it. In the mess hall, Neelix and Kez talk about why he's never discussed the war with her. Just as the exchange looks like it might be entering interesting territory, it's interrupted by Janeway, and this is a shame, as I'd have liked a little more exploration of his backstory. Indeed, this would have been an opportunity to suggest the loss of his family as perhaps being the reason why he's so strongly, often toxically, possessive of Kez, something which we first see clearly in Episode 5, Phage. Oh, and while I've got your ear, I want to point out that at no point in this episode do we discover who started the war, yet the deliberate targeting of a civilian population to hasten the end of that war by using a weapon of mass destruction is seen as an atrocity by all concerned, regardless of who fired the first shot, and I'm sure this definitely isn't a reference to certain actions in 1945. Yet another example of why it amuses me to see internet wankers claim that new Star Trek shows are more woke and political than old ones. But again, I digress. Janeway gives Neelix the news about Jetrel wanting to scan him for blood nastiness, and Neelix again declines to meet him. Janeway suggests this might be Jetrel trying to atone, what with the mass murder and all, and Neelix agrees to meet him. After they argue for a bit with some back and forth over Jetrel's culpability, mainly caused by his insistence that he was just following orders, Janeway gets tired of their shit and we go off to do a science. While Jetrel works, Neelix needles him with a story about how he learned the folly of scientific curiosity without thought of the consequences as a child. Then Jetrel says Neelix is going to die, so Jetrel probably wins that one. It's okay though, because Jetrel might have an idea. He was poking around Voyager's teleporters, because that's a thing we just let random people do on spaceships apparently, and thinks he might be able to use it to isolate some of the space nuke radiation for sciencing a cure, so we set a course for Neelix's system, and on the way out, Jetrel has a bit of a twinge. Totes fine though, honest, he's definitely not dying. In sickbay, Jetrel is fascinated by the dog deactivating himself, and Neelix mocks him for his wide-eyed wonder. While Jetrel scans Neelix, he explains that Neelix isn't the only one who's suffered. Turns out his wife left him and took the kids, just because of that whole mass-murdering war criminal thing. Neelix points out that this doesn't really compare much to being space nuked, so maybe fuck off, yeah? Oh, and Jetrel says he's dying. There follows a frankly fucking bizarre nightmare sequence for Neelix where everyone calls him an arsehole, proving that even Dream Tom Paris is a dick. I presume it's supposed to be him dealing with resurgent survivor's guilt, his trauma, and a revelation we're about to get when he talks to Kez, but woof, it's just a mess of bad dream stereotypes. All it needs is mad cackling in the background to be 100% trope. In engineering, Jetrel tries to mansplain B'Elanna's job to her, and she politely points out, shut up and go fuck yourself. The sample is teleported aboard and we take it away to do some science on it. As work on the space nuke fog begins, Kez talks to Neelix, who confesses he wasn't fighting when his colony got kaboomed, as he said earlier, but was actually hiding. There's some ambiguity over whether this was for ideological reasons or cowardice, and that ambiguity extends to Neelix's own head, with him questioning himself, which is a nice touch, but the result is guilt and shame nevertheless. Kez sees the best in people again and tries to work through it with him, suggesting the hatred of Jetrel might be deflection of that guilt and, well, yeah, but also, he's a fucking mass murderer. Anyway, down in sickbay, Jetrel is doing science. The doc asks if he can help, and Jetrel tells the computer to turn him off using the command he heard earlier, which Given that it was specifically created for the Doctor to use after Janeway offered it to him in episode 7, it should have been coded to his voice pattern, but we need this drama to consider Jetrel as Sinister, so shut up. After disabling the dock, Jetrel sciences some of the space nuke fog into whatever the fuck this is. He's interrupted by Neelix. Jetrel tries to get rid of him, but he spots the whatever the fuck this is, so Jetrel knocks him out. A little later, Janeway tries to call sickbay for an update, but can't get through. She reboots the doc, who tells her that shit's gone bad. We catch up with Jetrel in a teleporter room fucking about with the controls. Janeway tells him she'll be having none of that shit round these parts, and he begs her to let him continue. See, he thinks he can bring back the people he nuked by using the teleporter on that canister of whatever the fuck this is. He believes he can gather all the subatomic particles of the people he nuked and put them back together again. Janeway calls this very implausible, which I think is a particularly fucking generous judgment. He is, in essence, saying he can rebuild a computer complete with all the data it stored after that computer has been rendered into dust and mixed with 250,000 other dusted computers. Oh, and some of that dust was probably also carried away by survivors and rescue workers, but what do I know? Oh, and he was lying about Neelix, he's not dying. Still, he says he can do it, so I guess we're having a go anyway. The attempt fails, probably on account of it being the scientific equivalent of a dozen clown cars filled with horse shit. Then Jetrel collapses. As he's lying in sickbay later, Neelix comes in and tells him that he forgives him. Then Jetrel carks it and we fly away. I guess we're keeping the body then. End of episode.